Defensiveness podcast, where freedom is cultivated through personal development, where women connect to fuel our futures, and where wealth is created as a byproduct of being well. Imagine that.
Wow.
I'm your host, Amanda Kingsley, and Tara has this episode off. I'm here with Jen Heilman.
Hi.
She's a Feng Shui expert and a transformational life coach. We're actually doing a program together right now, which we'll talk about at the end of this episode. But welcome, Jen.
Thank you. Super happy to be here. I'm excited.
Really
Thanks
fun.
for inviting me.
I can't believe we haven't had you on the show yet. This is great. So tell us a little bit about how you were introduced to Feng Shui. Like, who introduced you to this cool and wacky concept that you can manage your life in your space?
Right. So
what? Okay, let's go back, because I just said Feng Shui as if people know what it is. I said you were a Feng Shui life coach. So tell us what Feng Shui is, and then who introduced it to you.
Okay, so Feng Shui it's basically an assessment of your, Feng Shui is not an assessment of your home, but it is, it's the traditional way to describe it is the art of placement. And so it's taking a look at your physical space and seeing how it's flowing, how it's not flowing, and how that's affecting your life. That's probably the simplest way to put it. Our space is a reflection of our circumstances. So if you have something going on in your life, you can see it reflected in your space. And it's crazy. So
I know, it's so crazy.
We all have
what is this?
It's Chinese.
Yeah. Okay.
Thousands of years old. And I have learned about it and made it contemporary, so that you can approach it from a point of place that feels comfortable in this modern day world without, using all of the more traditional cures and all of that kind of stuff.
So I've been to China twice, and if anyone listening heard like my recaps of China, one of the things that I was most excited about or most moved by, and we just did a couple like little tour of a garden or a, Tiananmen Square, things like that. And I just found it so incredible how intentional all of their placement was. Right. It was like, this is placed here because, and I just was so moved by how purposeful and intentional their spaces were.
Right.
Like ancient ruins kind of spaces.
Oh, yeah.
So that's very cool.
And many ancient cultures have some form of Feng Shui, and whether it's like the study of energy, right? It's Qi or Prana or I forget the other one, the Japanese, I think it's Ki. So there's So and I was just actually talking with my sister-in-law who grew up in India. And they have a form of it as well. Cool. And so it's there. It's just that we're not aware of it, right? We're new to putting words to it. I don't think we're new to it, but we're new to putting words to it.
Interesting way to put that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Right, because it's like very innate in a lot of people, and when I shine a light on what's happening, they go, "Oh, of course," and it resonates, right? It resonates somewhere deep.
That's come up a few times for me in other places this week, where people have said, like, I've come to this new level and I don't have new words for it. Yeah. Like, I can't even answer your question because I only know old words.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's like interesting for you to say if you don't have words for it.
Right.
All right. Well, people can also Google Feng Shui and get like all those hipster and cool articles. But how were you introduced to Feng Shui?
So I went to school for architecture and interior design. And so it was introduced to me in college as just like a piece of one of the courses.
Of course it was.
Right. Just to, figure out, if that's something that could be integrated into the design, but we didn't really dive that deep into it. So it was literally a decade later that it was reintroduced to me. It was at a time where I was struggling. My son was just born. My son is my second child, and he was born with congenital heart disease. And we were just coming out of all of that, where he was finally in the clear. His life was, I know, yeah, where it was a really difficult time. And so I was a stay-at-home mom, because we chose that path, and also because my son was sick, that was chosen for us as well. And so I needed something, and I always loved design and architecture and interior design, and so I was missing something, more spiritual side in my life, and his experience and my experience with him opened up things like crazy for me spiritually. But the Feng Shui, when I found this book, it was Jamie Barrett's Feng Shui Your Life, and that connected the dots for me with all of those pieces that I loved, with the design, the architecture, the interior design, and then the spirituality. And it connected things in a way that just, like, you get that snap, right? You're like, oh, okay. So I started experimenting in my house, right? Because I wanted to connect back in. I couldn't put words to it at the time, but I really was craving some form of connection to the spiritual side, or to a deeper place within myself, or a higher power. And so this was an avenue that made sense for me.
Did you tell your husband that you were shuiing, or did you just kind of secretly do it while he was at work?
It was mostly in secret, not in secret, but
it was just a thing you did when you were home with the baby.
Right.
Versus
and it was definitely more subtle, and that's what I love about Feng Shui, is that it is very subtle. And people don't have to know, it's not like, the way I approach it is, you wouldn't know that a space was shuied, as we call it, because it's not obvious. There's not like, Chinese flutes, or
right,
or a Buddha
statues all over the house,
or bamboo, or it's just not like that. And so it's more an assessment of the flow, and finding that theme. So at first it was just the art of placement, and then as I got deeper and deeper into it, I found that there was just much deeper connections to how I could help people discover their stories and their themes.
Do you know any other? So Jen has this really unique. Now I attribute it to you as a Feng Shui practitioner, but maybe all Feng Shui practitioners do this. And I don't know if practitioner is the right word. Consultants. I don't know. Anyway, she has this really unique way of seeing someone's space and identifying the places in their life where they're struggling, or they're stuck, or there's old stories. It's incredible. Is that something that only you do, or do other consultants, designers, I don't know, woo-woo traditional people do that?
Woo-woo traditional people. I love it. I believe that I have run into one other practitioner who I was amazed that he spoke the same language that I did, right? But until then, and that was just recently, until then, I had not really heard how I speak of it into the level that I do. But there is, I think that you can go into a space. I think most practitioners can go into a space and say, hey, what's going on in your love story, right? That kind of thing. They can look, if your love area is missing, right? Then what's going on there. But I think there's a I have a little bit of a tweak on it, just like
yeah,
everybody has
right.
their own unique take on it. Yeah.
I love that. And I've actually done a lot of Feng Shui with Jen for years. And it wasn't until this spring that we dug in as part of the new program we're creating. And I found this whole new story. Well, she found this whole new story that we identified together and are tackling. And so there's just layers and layers and layers.
Right.
But that's when you get like really into it. Like I'm really into it with you. So I've uncovered this really deep story, but there were many things I did long before that.
Right.
So let's say somebody came to you and they were just curious about Feng Shui. They weren't like, I haven't been in a serious relationship for 30 years and I'm ready for love in my life. But it wasn't that. They were just like, what is this? And will it help me? So they didn't have a specific concern. But they did do some art of placement and some work with Feng Shui or with you. What might they feel like before, and then what might they feel after?
Wow. So a lot of times, just using that specific example, they are setting up their space in a way that they are repelling love.
Oh,
right?
If that were their concern.
Right. If that was their concern,
right.
Just to use, sometimes it's easier to use examples to explain the situation,
right.
But they, why can't I, find a relationship? Why can't I be successful in a relationship? And they're looking at the outside, like that they're not, the responsible one for it. Right. And this is a reflection of their own energy and what they're putting out into the world.
Whoa.
Yeah. So I can show that to them in their space. We can take direct examples from their space. And, I have had people that have a photo of, a woman standing by herself, longingly looking out into the distance, into the middle distance.
Or a collection of horror movies or something.
Right, exactly, right? There's like this evidence, and it's almost as if you're that, like we just talked about, that innate connection that we have to our space that we can't quite put words to yet in our own culture. That is that innate connection where we're taking that energy and we are repelling that love scenario because we don't think that we're worthy of it, or whatever the deeper story is. That's what the beauty of Feng Shui is that we can peel back those layers. Like you said, with your work, we've been in this for years, right? But we started with this like kind of top layer, and we've slowly been peeling it back, and now we're in this like, oh my God, this story has been with me since I was 12 or something, right? Is what you discovered. And you're able to make the tweaks and the shifts to see where that's showing up in a lot of different places in your life, and to eradicate it, right? To pluck it out and to move it. So, so Feng Shui is a way to become aware.
Yeah, I like with the horror movie or the like picture of yourself alone. I know as a receiver of the work, of the suggestions, sometimes you're like, well, that's the only place I can put them.
Right.
You get really defensive.
You do.
Like, but I really like that picture there.
Right.
And the reason you like it there is because you're comfortable. And if you just kind of open and chill out, you can find a new place for your horror movies.
Right.
But I know that in receiving the work, like almost always, or say you went and you Googled after this interview and you researched and you're like, well, this isn't going to work for me because that's the only place I can put my garbage.
Right.
There's this like defensive thing that happens because it's what we're used to, it's what we're comfortable with, and we're like, change, can't change.
Yeah. And it's the ability to see outside of that box.
Yeah. So I just want to throw that out there for anyone listening. If that happens to you, know that that's part of the process, whether that happens working with us or with Jen or on your own. try and move past that, because I know as someone who's done the work that that's almost always the first thing.
Yeah. And
it's like,
yeah.
but
yeah, exactly. And I have experienced that myself, because we cannot see our own blind spots, our own blocks.
Yeah.
I have worked with a Feng Shui professional to come in and take a look at my space from the outside point of view, because, I'm human. I don't, I can't see my blind spots. And so when they looked at my space and they told me those various things, I was like, you feel yourself posturing, like,
well, I'm not going to build an addition.
Yeah. What am I supposed to do with that? Or that was, my grandfather's, or, and as, as a Feng Shui practitioner, you're very cautious to ask someone what they feel about a particular item, and before you just dive in and say, you can't have that there, don't do that.
Get rid of that ugly painting.
Right, exactly. That just doesn't happen. So, but yeah, when you are in the middle of it, you do find yourself posturing and, into the defensive mode.
I kind of went off track. So that was a really good example of like the love situation. But what if somebody was like pretty happy in their life, but they were just curious? Like, what might they feel before and after? Because I think the first time I worked with you with Feng Shui, I didn't have any concerns. Like, I wasn't like, hey, Jen, this isn't working. I was just like, oh, Feng Shui, that's interesting. I'll try it.
Right, exactly.
And I noticed all kinds of shifts, but I didn't come to you with a specific problem. It was just like, maybe my life could feel better. Right. I don't really know. I've never felt better.
Right, exactly, right? You're at a certain level. You don't know what's next or what you're capable of, or what you're, what level you could rise to, right? And so, that's a really great point, and that's a really great question. I feel like, for me, in my own experience, it raises my energy level, right? Like, I feel
so much,
right? You feel like so good and confident, and
so
you feel like you're in the flow and things are happening for you, and, life is showing up for you in ways that you get excited about it, right?
And you're like always in the right place at the right time. I know, so because Jen and I are running this program, we've been doing the work with each other for 6 weeks now. And I've been doing a lot of work in my house, and I'm looking, because we're in my house now, so I'm looking over, and my floor needs to be vacuumed so badly right now. It's like covered in crumbs and dog hair and whatever. But my mom came over the other day, and she's like, oh, you did so much cleaning. And I'm looking at the floors like, have you looked down? But she could feel it. Yeah. Like, she could feel that shift, even though, like, and she said it as if my house were really clean, not as if it were picked up. And it's not. It needs serious vacuum and like window washing and all that stuff. Let's see. But she didn't see that, because the space felt so good to her. She was like, oh, you've been cleaning. Like, nope.
Right, exactly.
So I just think that was a cool example of how not only do we feel better in our spaces after we apply the practice, other people feel better in our spaces. And that goes, like I asked you earlier, did your husband know you were doing it? Like, he probably came home and felt better, but he didn't necessarily know why. And I think that is such good proof that it's not like a placebo thing. Like, oh, well, we did the work, so now we feel better. Well, when we do the work and someone else feels better, it's like, oh, there's something to this.
Right, exactly.
I think that's so interesting.
Every time I do Feng Shui, right, because it is a practice and it's a lifestyle. Every time I shui my house, my kids will come home and be like, ooh, what'd you do, Mom? They're used to it, but they can't see what I did, but they feel
Yeah.
the shift.
Right.
Yeah.
I love that. They can't see it. So they're not like, oh, Mom, you moved the couch.
Right. Yeah.
They're just like, something feels
Which I did do recently, but that's not common. But yeah, it's true.
But it's not obvious. Yeah. Cool.
Right.
All right. So is there something that someone listening, I'm going to pick since we already talked about love on like a dramatic way, like I've been single for whatever, or all my relationships keep falling apart. What about people who are in a relationship, new or long-standing, that's pretty good? They just want to because this is one of my favorite places to notice Feng Shui, is to give like a little tweak, and then my marriage gets a little peppier, and I'm like, cool, peppier, I love it. Like he's happier when he comes home, and it's just lovely. Right. Yeah. And things get better everywhere.
Right.
So what if someone just wanted to ignite a little spark in their love life, like a little, a little sweet edge? What maybe could they do if they're listening?
Right. So I love that you used the word spark, because Feng Shui is very literal, right?
Yeah.
And so you literally can light some candles in your love area to spark things up a little bit. I recently, in the love area of my kitchen, I noticed in my relationship that things were, a little cool, right? Yeah. And so I wanted to, warm things up a little bit. And I took a look at I noticed I had changed some things in the love area of my kitchen. And I was like, oh, okay. So I was making the correlation between the two.
Right.
And I shifted things, and I put a picture of my husband and I on our wedding day in our kiss the bride moment into the love corner. And all of a sudden things have been so much more loving, right?
Peppier.
Yeah, definitely peppier and peppier. Yeah. So just subtle shifts like that, to set that intention. Yeah. Right. And to add a little spark. And it's so easy, right? Like how I just had to call awareness to the fact that things were a little cool, right? Yeah. And that I wanted to warm them up. And so I went to that space and looked at it and, again, raised my awareness around what it was that I was reflecting back to myself, and then made the adjustment. And literally, when he got home, things were better. Yeah. Yeah.
And even if you don't, I've had times where Jen's asked me to pay attention to a particular area, and I'm like, well, I don't know what to put there. Right. So I'll just clean it. Just give it a really intentional clean, and be sort of knowing in my head why I'm doing that. And that alone makes the shift. But then it also gets my creative mind going, and I think of what to put there. Right. So even just cleaning a corner, or if it's your, something. So yeah. So good point. I guess to wrap that up, it was maybe light a candle in your bedroom, and it doesn't even have to be. It doesn't even have to be while that person is home. Right. No, if you're home, or you just have some time where you're not together, light a candle, make the bed.
That's a big one.
Make the bed. Right. Clean up the nightstands, something that represents to give attention to that. Right. And then, so one thing that you addressed that I had a question about for listeners was, can you do it wrong? And you sort of did address that, where you said, I was doing some Feng Shui work for something else, and then it kind of affected my love area. So it's not that you did it wrong, but you were able to notice after doing it, it maybe had results in this part, but it kind of put a cool edge on the love.
Right. And what that brings up for me is we have, in the program that we do, we have 5 areas of our lives, right? And so we have love, we have wealth, we have health, community, and creativity. And so just being human, we tend to believe, or perhaps it's a story, and that's something that we're trying to kick everybody out of, is that if we have one thing, we can't have the other. Right. So there's an imbalance somewhere. We can't have it all.
Can't have a happy marriage and healthy kids
and money,
money.
Right? And so it's a story.
Yeah.
It is a story. We are meant to thrive in all areas of our lives. We are doing our best. We are being our best when we are thriving in all of those areas. And it is a story that we have learned that we can't thrive in all of those things. And it shows up in our space, in our Feng Shui, and it showed up in my space. Right. So, my husband's career is flying, my career is flying, and, we're healthy, we're working out, right? Yeah. We're good in our community. Creativity is flowing. Oh, wait a minute. I've got to pull one of those things out. So I pulled out love. Right?
Interesting.
Yeah.
So I guess what the point I want to make to listeners, and we're going to have to wrap up here soon, but the point I want to make to listeners is that it's a lifestyle. There's nothing in life that's an easy button. Right? It's not like, ooh, I put something pink in my bedroom and now everything's all better. It does maybe work that way for like a little while, but it's about paying attention and continuing to set intentions. And just because this is really cool, and it, like, honestly, it's worked to manifest like insane amounts of money into my life and change my marriage and like really cool stuff. Just because it works so easily and beautifully doesn't mean you get to just do it once and ignore it. Like,
just like anything in life.
Practice. It's a way
you wouldn't expect to work out once and reap all the benefits,
right? Or eat a salad one day a week, like, and reap the benefits,
right? Exactly. Or do your job for an hour and expect a full paycheck. Like, it doesn't add up. You have to find the practice that works for you and maintain it.
And so let me allow that to lead into our program that we're running together, because we had been working side by side for years. And all of a sudden it made sense to work together. And what we both realized was that I was doing this sort of life coaching work with clients, and it was awesome. And Jen was doing this Feng Shui work with clients, and it was awesome. But there was a lot of like repeating the work, that when we put the two together, it's not that we don't have to repeat the work, like we always have to be doing it, but it all became more sustainable. And like, there was like this glue that happened.
Well, and there were results too, right? There was results that
so much bigger.
That were so much bigger, and we weren't necessarily getting those bigger results on our own. But when we combined the two things together, it was like kerpow.
And I just think like the results were like, I'm imagining, because I'm like a vision person. So as soon as you said that, it's like I saw these roots. Like the results were really grounded. They were like different in this way that was not so surface. And that we could bring this mindset work, this attention to our thoughts and our intentions and our purpose with the placement of our objects in our home, and like seriously make an impact.
Right, exactly.
So
a sustainable impact too, right? A lasting impact.
And so Jen and I are both really intuitive people in that, like, we kind of get a feeling and we follow it. And I think what happened for us, we were both like, this could be interesting. And so we followed it, and then it started blowing our minds. We were like, whoa, that was a feeling for a reason. Like, this work is like unlike anything we have ever experienced. And both of us have been doing personal development work for so long.
Exactly. And can I just say, I totally blew my house out Feng Shui wise before you approached me. I was looking for a shift. My dad had just passed away, and I was looking for a major shift. I didn't really know what that shift was, but I had been in the back of my mind, setting an intention to do this work with someone else that could bring that power in. And now that I see it, hindsight is 2020. And I just blew my house out, just saw the themes and just really went to work.
Like you hired someone to help you with
see my blind spots.
Because we can't see our own stuff. Yeah. So even if you go read an article about Feng Shui, you might be able to make some changes, but it's when someone else says, did you see this? And you're like, oh my goodness, I didn't even see that. Yeah. So Jen actually hired, I didn't know she did this. Yeah. This all, again, is in hindsight, but she had hired someone to help her with Feng Shui.
Right.
And then
you
can keep telling
me. Not even 2 weeks tops after I got things put back together after this consultation and really was feeling like surging, like, oh my God, something is about to happen. And Amanda literally shows up and literally is like, hey, Jen, I've got something I want to talk to you about. And basically formulates it around my work, the bagua and all of that. And I was like, yes.
I'm having a moment. I'm having a serious moment right now because I had not put together my own hindsight is 2020 experience. Whoa, wait, Jen doesn't even know, because I'm just realizing this myself. So back in March, I hosted a women, wine, and why retreat. And I did some intense mind work myself as I was teaching these women I was with how to do this work, this thought work, this why work, this intense, like, deep inner work. And what happened over the course of that week is that, like, some things really shifted for me. And I left the retreat and I said, oh my gosh, I need to do a co-coaching program with somebody. And so I did this super intense mind work, mindset work. You did this super intense Feng Shui work. And the universe was like, now you're ready to work together.
Oh my God.
I never put that together.
Wow.
That is crazy. So now we have this program. It's called Connected Growth. I believe very strongly in having a one-word why. Jen's is connect, mine is growth, and they just fit really beautifully together.
That gives me chills.
So the program is called Connected Growth. It's a 9-week intensive with one-on-one coaching with both of us. Group work. It's just mind-blowing. So definitely go to either one of our websites, jenheilman.com or amandastarkingsley.com, and we'll put it all in the show notes too. And check out the Connected Growth program. But for people who are like, I'm not really sure I want to dive into a 9-week program with you two. But we promise it's fun.
It's going to be fun.
We also have a free, like a really cool free gift right now that accesses all 5 of those areas that we mentioned. So health, wealth, love, creativity, and community. And if you, it's called, we'll put it in the show notes, but it is at amandastarkingsley.com/5-feng shui, FENGSHUI-hacks, HACKS. So that's a freebie, and that'll be up for a while.
Yeah.
But it's a really good example of how we work together.
Right.
Address how we work with the Feng Shui and the mindset thought work to create just a mind-blowing life coaching experience for you.
Right.
So go check that out. It's completely free. If you really apply it, and you can apply any one of those areas in your life or all of them, you're going to see results in. Please reach out and tell us about them.
Yeah, I love hearing about it.
Okay, is there anything else you want to share about Feng Shui or your practice or your business before we wrap up?
I don't think so.
I think we covered a lot.
I would. Yeah, we did cover a lot. I think the main thing that just pops into my head is that you will see results if you go and do the freebies, if you read the books, if you do all of that kind of stuff. But the real magic happens, the real transformation happens when you hire a coach. And maybe that coach isn't Amanda and I, but
it's so true.
It's so true, right? The real magic happens when you have somebody taking a look from the outside in, taking a look, and actually that's our whole thing, right? Yeah, inside out, outside in. And so, having somebody take a look at what's going on so that they can point that out for you, and it opens you up, it brings you back to what's actually going on. And so I think that that's really super important.
It is. And again, if it's not us, find someone in your life who can give you that perspective, someone with experience, someone with tools and resources, whether you can hire them for a whole program or for one session. You just leave with so much value, and it's value that you apply for the rest of your life, because it's so hard to do our own work without someone else's eyes. So I'm really glad you brought that up, because both of us have purchased and been through many programs, which are awesome. We're so glad we did, because we've learned what we can give to you.
But a lot of them are lacking.
Yeah,
right?
It's that one-on-one piece that is so valuable.
Yeah.
It's incredible. And the price of this program does not reflect the value of that one-on-one work, but we really want to make it accessible to people. So we chose a price in which we could give a certain number of people that one-on-one work and still have it be reasonable for their budget. So it's a game changer. All right, we could talk all day, so let's wrap up. Thank you so much, Jen.
Thank you.
And until the next episode, you can find Tara and I at Creating Wealth and Wellness, and each of our individual websites. And remember that we did delete our Facebook page, so find us each on social media in Instagram and Facebook if you get a chance. And we'll bring you lots more goodness.
Yay!
Yay!